Today on the show, we're going to be talking about what's going on with the mutants at the moment in Marvel. So let's just get right into this. Basically, in Marvel at the moment, the mutants are being poisoned by Terrigen mists, which are a mist that comes from the Inhumans. That's a whole thing in itself. Basically, all you need to know is that the Inhumans and the mutants are technically at war, and the mutants are losing. And they're basically going to die or leave Earth, which means they won't be in the Marvel mainstream planet anymore. The point of this video isn't necessarily what's going on with the mutants, because that's honestly kind of a subpar story. It's what it means for Marvel. Marvel at the moment is trying to capitalize on the characters they can use in their movies, which means they don't really want the mutants being front and center of the Marvel universe anymore. Some people have tried to say that that doesn't make sense for them to even be in the Marvel universe anymore, but that's a whole other thing we're going to get into in a minute. I don't understand why they're trying to make the comics more like the movies, because while I understand that it makes sense to try and capitalize on a new audience, this new audience ain't coming to the comics. Look at the numbers that the movies get and the TV shows get, and then look at the numbers comics get. Comics haven't improved in sales all that much over the past few years, and the companies that have improved in sales are not Marvel and DC. It's Image and Dark Horse, you know, the indie companies. And yeah, while movies are mainstream, comic book and superhero movies are not a new thing. We're getting good at it now, but they're not a new concept, so it doesn't make sense to me to try and capitalize on just that and make the comics look like that, when the comics have been around longer. We've been talking about the comics for so long, but we don't talk about old comic book movies anymore, and that's just gonna happen again. Whenever I bring this topic up, someone in the comments always says, well, it doesn't make sense for Marvel to have mutants anymore because regular heroes exist in Marvel and they're not treated badly whatsoever. And I'm just always like, either you do not pay attention or you don't read comics. And it's more likely that you don't read comics. Let's look at examples of non-mutant characters being discriminated against. First off, there is Jessica Drew. One time she had to use her powers in public to defend herself from Hydra, and someone in the background screamed, "Oh no, a mutant," or something to that effect. Just because she had powers, people thought she was a mutant, so suddenly she was the most terrifying thing in the world, even though she'd been there dancing that entire time and no one cared. There is She-Hulk. Just because she had powers, she could not find an office anywhere to set up her law practice. She actually had to go to a place that specialized in renting offices to people that had superpowers, just so she could start her own law firm. And then there is Captain America. If you look at the way that he is treated and you look at the way people that are equal to him in rank are treated, if they do not have superpowers, they are treated better than him because he allowed himself to become a mutate. So what makes mutants different from everyone else in the Marvel universe? Well, mutants are born with their powers. They're actually not considered human. They're considered a different breed of people called Homo superior. People fear mutants because they're considered the next stage in human evolution. So they're convinced that mutants are one day going to rise up and kill off all the regular people, which obviously isn't true. But we do see something similar to that in today's society, believe it or not. We actually hear people all the time saying, gay people shouldn't be allowed to exist because eventually there will be no more straight people because gay people will have taken over, which is obviously ridiculous to think, and it's just as ridiculous to think that mutants are going to take over the Marvel universe. But because that still exists, mutants are still relevant to this day. To write mutants, you do have to do a story that's relevant in today's society, and their current story is just not relevant whatsoever. So I'm going to give you 3 stories that they could have done that would be a lot more relevant than the one they're doing at the moment. First off, they could have done the mutant president. A mutant, either Beast or Dazzler, decide to run for president, but the media keep ignoring them. But they are the president that the United States needs. They would be the perfect candidate. So we see them go the extra mile and prove to the entire world that they want to protect the US, both with their policies and their powers. How can they prove that being a mutant isn't a bad thing for the US? Number 2, the Mutants Do Not Exist campaign. Now this would be going into more general people's points of view of mutants. There are countries around the world in the Marvel Universe, such as Japan, that have people in them that think that mutants don't exist. They're just regular mutates wanting to seek attention. A good example of this is Big Hero 6. We do actually meet people that believe that mutants don't exist, even though mutants are kind of running about Japan. They just they're just mutates wanting attention. They're nothing big or nothing important. In today's society, we do have people coming out as different sexualities, different gender identities all the time. We are discovering that gender and sexuality is a fluid thing, and we're trying to come up with names for different parts of the spectrum. But we still have people, even though there is scientific evidence to prove there are different gender identities and different sexualities, that say, nope, you're either gay or straight or a man or a woman. And it's like, well, no, gender and sex are two different things, and your sexuality isn't linked to your gender, so you could be any combination of things. There would be a few kinks to work out in this story, and I don't think it could be set in the US because mutants are so prominent in the US in the Marvel Universe, but I do think there are easy ways to make this story work in other parts of the Marvel Universe. And number 3, the Mutant Popstar. This is a smaller scale story, but I'm really into smaller scale stories these days. A mutant enters a reality TV competition like X Factor or American Idol, where people have to call in to vote for a certain person, and we see them go week by week in this competition, campaigning to win this competition with more than just their talent, because that's not enough, because they are a minority. Overall, having the mutants taken out of the mainstream Marvel Universe, to me, makes no sense whatsoever, and is kind of insulting to the legacy that the X-Men have created for Marvel. Okay guys, that is it for today, so what do you think of this situation? Please leave them in the comments down below. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more history videos. And also don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, support the show by checking out my Patreon so I can make bigger and better and more history videos. And also don't forget to subscribe to my comedy channel if you want to laugh. My name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.